The Apple Watch. Everybody's heard of it. It's arguably the most recognized smartwatch on the entire market, and it's been 6 months now since the Apple Watch 6 was released. So now it's time for a long-term review. This video is all about the Apple Watch 6, which I've been wearing for the past 6 months, but after the excitement of the specs and the flashy new features. So if you're looking to buy one, these are most likely the things you're actually going to care about in the long run. So in this video, we're talking about the Apple Watch in 5 categories. First, I'll be talking about the experience, things that I liked, things that I didn't like, and features that I just didn't use at all in the past 6 months. Secondly, we're going to talk about the fitness tracking, the accuracy, and of course, some more advanced testing that I've done with this watch. Thirdly, we'll talk about new features on the horizon. So if you're looking to buy this watch, these are things that were almost definitely not mentioned in original reviews because these are new features Apple recently mentioned they're going to be releasing for this watch soon. Fourthly, we're going to talk about the competition. So if you're looking at this watch, is it worth it to get the Apple Watch 6, or should you buy a different one that might be more durable, that might be cheaper, that might have whatever other features? We're going to talk about what the competition looks like. And tied in with that, category 5 is what do I think is missing? What can be improved on this watch? Which kind of answers the question of should you buy this watch, or is it worth waiting for the Apple Watch 7, which honestly might come out in the next 5 or 6 months. So clearly we have a lot to talk about in this video. For anyone new here, if you're interested in videos like this, please do click that subscribe button below. Let's get into category number 1. This is the experience with this watch. So I'll admit, there are a lot of features that I thought I was going to really like about this watch that over time, I just really didn't care about. I either forgot they were there or just stopped using them or otherwise became less interested in what those features offered. And so on the flip side, there were plenty of features that I didn't expect to like that I actually really did like on this watch. But starting off with the first of those two, the features that I ended up not using really at all, the first one is actually the sleep tracking. It's something that I love to see sleep tracking on watches, and honestly, I did use this at first, but I found that over time, after really only a couple weeks, I entirely stopped checking that. It's something that I don't look at anymore, and in fact, I don't even wear this watch to bed anymore for a couple reasons. One of them is because this watch I found, sleep tracking, over time, you're gonna learn what works for you. You're gonna find the right settings, the right temperature, the right blankets, whatever, and it's gonna be pretty much the same every single night. So I stopped checking that. Now, the reason I didn't wear it to bed anymore is more of a drawback here, and that is the battery life. Unfortunately, this only lasts about a day and a half, so I found that, we'll talk about the battery in a second, but really, I just charge it overnight. That's what I found is easiest. I put it next to my bed on a nightstand, and it charges overnight. And that way, I already don't really care that much about my sleep tracking because I already know what works for me. And then the battery gets recharged every day. That's really what I found is the happy balance for my own use. Now, another feature that I found I really don't ever use, in fact, I don't even like it, is the hand washing timer. Apple is really advertising an auto hand washing timer where it can kind of detect when you're washing your hands and start a timer for you. I don't know who's using that. I don't know who needs a timer to wash their hands. I found that when I wash my hands, I've been doing this for 20-something years now. I know how to wash my hands. I can count to 20. I can easily just know when my hands are clean. But, to each their own. Maybe somebody really wants that feature. Another feature that I kind of thought I would like on here a little bit more than I do, and I guess it's fortunate that I don't need it, and this is the ECG. Now, the ECG on here, or EKG, depending on how you want to say that, is a feature that a lot of people might really want if you have known heart conditions and you really want to keep a close tab on that. But for a lot of other people that don't have heart conditions, it's not really going to be something that, at least I found that I never use it. I can't tell you the last time I used an EKG on here. It honestly might have been for my original review of this watch. And with that being said, if you look at the sleep tracking and the ECG, those two features are kind of some of the main reasons people wanted to upgrade to the Apple Watch 6 versus the Apple Watch SE. And I think a lot of people, as I said before, might be fine just getting the Apple Watch SE. I found that, having always on display is another thing I disabled on here because it does kill the battery a little bit quicker, and the response is very, very quick when I lift up my wrist. So that kind of ties over to another feature that I do like on this watch. The lift to wake is among the best in the industry. A lot of watches you end up lifting, they take a second to turn on. This one, I swear, as soon as you get even close to lifting it up, it turns on very, very quickly, and I have no problem. So I turn off always on display here, and when you look at all of those, the Apple Watch SE really could have been a better purchase where I could have saved money and gotten really the same experience. And just as a quick aside, for anybody wondering which watch this is the Apple Watch 6 44mm. That is the LTE version. So some people are going to ask that just in case you want to know. But of course, if you didn't get the LTE version or if you got the 40mm, it really doesn't matter. You're going to be getting essentially the same experience, and everything in this video still applies to that. Now, of course, with the App Store, there are tons of apps, and so there were plenty of apps that I ended up not using at all that I did download on here. So I really don't use the American Airlines app or the Starbucks app or a lot of other apps like that. But something I thought I was going to like more than I do on this watch is actually the noise detection. This was something I was excited when I really started using, that it could kind of detect when you're in a louder environment. But I found that now, I, again, never use it. I disabled the alerts from this because it ends up only alerting me when I already know it's loud. Like, my ears tell me when I'm in a loud environment, and I'm already wearing hearing protection when I'm mowing the lawn or using a chainsaw or doing anything that is going to be louder. If I'm at a concert, I already know, and I am wearing hearing protection. Maybe some people are less careful about that, and that could be a good reminder. But again, in the long run, I really doubt this is going to be something that people are using that much. But, you know, that's kind of the summary of the Apple Watch. It has so many features that can apply to absolutely anybody that the majority of this watch is going to be stuff that you probably don't even want. But that's what makes it so versatile. It's an amazing watch, but at the same time, it can be excessively boring in some ways, which is a good thing. That's what technology is meant to do. It's meant to kind of become invisible. It's supposed to assist you when you need it and disappear when you don't. And so that kind of leans over to the features that I do like about this watch. I really like the overall size, the design, the weight of this watch. Although I don't get a lot of compliments on the appearance of this watch, we'll talk more about that in a second, I found that it really, I forget it's on my wrist. It's there when I need it, and it's very light, very comfortable when I'm running. I don't find that it moves around too much. I don't find that it's uncomfortable, and it really seems to be doing a lot of things really, really well. And one of the big things that I love about this watch, compared to a lot of others that I maybe didn't expect to like as much as I do, is the watch faces. So there are so many different watch faces to choose from, which is true for a lot of different smartwatches out there. But with these on this watch here, or really any Apple Watch for that matter, I find that they're far more functional. So you can see right here, this one tells me like the time of day, of course, obviously, but it also tells me when the sunrise is, when the sunset is, a nautical sunset, and all kinds of things like that. So it's really useful. And along with the watch faces, one of the big benefits with this watch by far over every other smartwatch out there is the app selection. And I made an entire video of the best apps that I like using on my Apple Watch, but of course, it does come with a little bit of a downside. As you start to get more and more apps on here, it starts to get harder and harder to find them. So if you look at their little honeycomb design of the app layout, I found that it works reasonably well if you consistently go back to the same apps, but as you get a lot of apps on here, it starts to get harder to find them. They don't have text below them, and you really have to recognize the icons, and you have to kind of remember where they are in the honeycomb to access them quickly. So I wish it was a little bit of a quicker way to open the apps or find some shortcuts for that, and I'm sure, I mean, there probably is a better way to do that, but that's just something to be aware of. If you start going app crazy, which, I mean, a lot of people end up doing, I went app crazy on here and I got a ton of apps, it ends up getting a little bit harder to find them, and it ends up just feeling slower when you need to open them. Now, the battery life on here pretty comfortably gets me 1.5 days. It really never gets me 2 days, but it always gets me at least 1 day. So I found that what I end up doing is charging it every single night. It's kind of a setback there because a lot of other watches don't require daily charging. But it is kind of nice to take it off your wrist and let your wrist air out overnight. And like I said, I don't really use sleep tracking as much anymore. And when it comes to fitness tracking, it took me a while to really nail down who this watch is geared towards. And I think there's a big spectrum here. So on one end, the real extreme athletes, people training for marathons or triathlons or some really advanced stuff, this watch probably won't cut it. If you're casually training for a triathlon, that's different, but a lot of people training for those more intense things are going to be far more interested in a Garmin or a Suunto or a Polar watch, and they're really going to be better suited for you. Now, anybody on the other end who is, maybe you're trying to cut some weight, maybe you're just not active enough yet, and you want something to really encourage you and gamify your activity, again, this watch can kind of do that, but I think something like a Fitbit would do a much better job with it. In my opinion, Fitbit has always done a really good job of gamifying it and encouraging you to work out more. This watch right here, I mean, the 3 rings I found are kind of unusual metrics. They want you to stand more, they want you to obviously walk more, but I find that, again, Fitbit does a better job of that. But everyone in the middle, so if you already are kind of active and you want something to track your workouts, all the way up to somebody mildly training or casually training for a triathlon, this is going to do a fantastic job. There are plenty of things I liked in here. For example, there are a lot of different fitness workouts you can choose from, and they show you a lot of information. At the same time, there's also a lot of analytics you can see in the Apple Health app or in any of the other fitness apps you can use here, because it integrates well with Strava and Polar and a lot of other apps out there as well. One drawback, though, is that I find the auto pause can get a little bit annoying, especially if you're doing something like working out or yoga or something like that. Sometimes it likes to auto pause when your heart rate's not that high or your arm is not moving. Whatever the workout might be, if your arm's not moving, the watch might think you're not working out. Now let's talk a little bit more about some new features on this watch. Something that already exists is the ability to unlock your phone with your face if you're wearing a mask and you have your Apple Watch on. Kind of a recent feature they rolled out. Really nice to have, although here in the States, masks are no longer required for anybody who is vaccinated, so hopefully masks are going to kind of fade away as more people get vaccinated elsewhere as well. But for now, it is still really nice to have that feature on here so you don't have to always type your PIN in. Now, the second feature, which is even more exciting, more fun to talk about, but I can't guarantee exactly when it's going to come out, and this one's called Assistive Touch. So Apple's rolling out the ability to essentially use the accelerometers and the heart rate and a lot of sensors on this watch to detect what your hand is doing, and that will be like an assistive touch to use your watch. It's really meant to be an accessibility feature for anybody who has any type of impaired mobility. But at the same time, you can imagine that this could be useful for a lot of other gestures. So there's like fist clenching and moving your wrist around and all types of stuff that you can control the watch essentially without ever touching it. So I think this is a really, really cool thing that Apple's bringing out that, again, is pushing the Apple Watch way ahead of a lot of other competition. Who knows exactly when that's going to come out? And on top of that, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a way of them priming people for eventually like some AR glasses or something like that. Again, there's a lot of power in that technology, and it's really impressive that Apple's even working on that. And that brings us to the next subject. I mentioned that that's pushing Apple ahead of the competition, but it really depends on what you're looking for. So the Apple Watch, I mean, everybody knows about it. A lot of people want to buy one, but if you're interested in Apple Watch, there might be other options that would be better suited for you. For example, there are, of course, cheaper ones. There are better looking watches, better for fitness tracking, more durable. Like, there's a lot of other watches out there. And of course, I have a full video about my top smartwatches on my channel right now, but I'm coming out with a brand new one in the next couple days. So if you want to see that, please do click that subscribe button. But I mean, one quick example, if I'm wearing this watch in public, after the past 6 months, I've almost never received even a single compliment, because everybody knows what the Apple Watch is. No one's going to say, wow, I like that watch, what is it? Because they know what it is. Where on the flip side, if I'm wearing something like a hybrid watch, it's far more likely people are going to be interested. The watches generally look nicer, and there are plenty of benefits. So anybody looking into the style aspect of watches, you might be more interested in something like a hybrid watch. And that brings us into the final category of what's missing from this watch. Is this peak smartwatch right now, or is it worth waiting a couple months for the Apple Watch 7? Well, we don't know exactly what's going to be on the Apple Watch 7, but some things that I wish this watch had, one of them is actually Touch ID. I really wish there was a way to use the rotating crown on the right side as a fingerprint sensor so you could sign into this watch without a PIN, so you can make app purchases, and a bunch of other potential situations I think could be really advantageous there. On top of that, the obvious one is the battery life. I really wish we could get more than 2 or 3 days of battery life out of this. I mean, really what I mean is more than one, but once you get past like 3 days, I think that's optimal, and I want to see this watch work in that direction. Another thing is that the screen protection and the design of this is not especially great. Like, it is a durable watch to some extent. Like, I'm not really that worried about it, but I wouldn't go rock climbing with this watch. There's a lot of things that I'm very careful about, and you could buy like a screen protector for this, or a little bezel to go around it, like a case. But you know, I'll put some links below if you guys are interested in those. But it'd be nice if Apple had a couple alternate designs of this. Maybe if they had a round version, maybe if they had a version that would have like a more protected edge around the outside. Those would all be nice things if Apple could release those. But again, this watch, for what it is a very functional and successful watch. And that kind of comes down to the conclusion here of Smartwatches in particular, are really trying to figure out their place in the world. And watches can be something for, of course, style. They could be something for a phone replacement or a phone peripheral. They could be for fitness. They could be for health reasons. And Apple essentially is really targeting the phone peripheral and the phone replacement. Although at the same time, they do a lot of the other things as well. And when it comes to what they're trying to do, Apple's really crushing it. And it's hard for me to imagine that the Apple Watch 7 is really going to be any different. They might put a newer processor in there, but this is already fast enough that I don't know if the new processor would really make that much of a difference. So when it comes down to it, should you buy the Apple Watch 6? I would say for a lot of people, you would probably be more interested in the Apple Watch SE, but if you're looking for the features that the 6 offers, I wouldn't even bother waiting for the 7. This watch is really a solid watch. You guys can leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about the Apple Watch 6. Again, I've been using this for 6 months now, and this is really my opinion of it. I think it's a really great watch to use. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do consider liking and subscribing. I'm Mike O'Brien. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.